So I'm very happy to be able to introduce our next conference speaker, Isabelle Henault. So Isabelle Henault is a psychologist and sexologist and director of the Montreal Autism and Asperger Clinic. She holds a master's degree in sexology and a Ph.D. in psychology and specializes in autism and Asperger syndrome with a focus on interpersonal relationships and sexuality. She provides private consultations, diagnostic assessments, as we heard from Jonathan. This was the person that Jonathan was referring to this morning that diagnosed him a few years ago. And she collaborates on international research as well. So she's authored several books, including Asperger Syndrome and Sexuality, The Female Asperger Profile, and regularly gives talks and participates in conferences internationally. And Isabelle has also brought some of her books today, actually. So if anyone is interested in her books, you can see her during the break after the conference. So thank you, Isabelle.
Thank you very much. It's such a pleasure to be here. Let me just organize my laptop so I can see you. Otherwise, I don't see you. Like this. Can you hear me well? Yeah? Okay, good. Yes? Is it good? Perfect. I just have an hour. It's very, very brief for me to explore the topic of sexuality. So I'll try to cover as much as possible, but as an introduction, I just want to pay a tribute to my friend George Huard, who's still here. I have a brief story to mention. We met years ago, 1998 was the first time I met George. It used to be called la Société québécoise de l'autisme. Now it's la Fédération québécoise. And George was working there as a technician, and I was a volunteer. And we became friends very, very quickly because I was fascinated by him, his way of thinking, his humor. He has such a good sense of humor. And George was fantastic because we started to chat together, and he said, "Is it true that you are a sexologist?" And I looked at him, I say, "Yeah, why are you asking me?" He said, "Because I have questions for you. Usually, I'm not so keen at, answering people's questions personal." He said, no, it's not personal. He said, "Why is that nobody talks about autism, Asperger syndrome, and sexuality?" Coming from the Department of Sexology, I thought there would be plenty of books or programs. We went online together and we found one paper. So George looked at me and he said, "Do it." Really? And I said, "Do what?" He said, "Do your PhD on Asperger syndrome and sexuality." And I looked at him, I said, "This is brilliant." He said, "Of course it's brilliant." And it's true, I did it. So thank you, George, for this wonderful idea. It's been now 20 years I'm in the field working on the topic of sexuality, relationships, other topic, of course, but today I was asked to present about my first love, autism and sexuality. So thank you for this choice of topic that I think is very, very important. We'll talk about healthy relationship and sexuality for students. I will cover many topics such as privacy, body parts, mainly material that you can use in your intervention. It's been now years since we visit schools, school boards, and we are working hands in hands with professionals so they can support students to learn more knowledge about sexuality. I am at the Autism and Asperger's Clinic at Montreal. If you are curious, you can go on our website. We are a group of 18 specialists, psychologists, sexologists, educators, special educators, clinicians, and we work with children, teenagers, adults. We work with couples as well. Many couples will consult where one partner may have traits and the other partner may have ADHD or being non-autistic. We work with families. We work with women as well. I'm very interested in the female profile of autism. And we also provide a lot of group activities, sex education, emotion regulation, many topics. And we have also our Asperger's group. We have a group for women in their 20s, 30s and over. And now we have also a young ASPI group for teenage girls. So they can meet together, support each other. We do a lot of fun activities, art shows. So it's really based on community services as well, not just professional services. When we talk about sexuality, we need to take into account the concept of the neurodivergence, knowing that students, but also eventually adults, are very sensitive. Many of them are interested in having friends, partners. They may be clumsy, socially speaking, but it doesn't mean that they want to be isolated. Whenever we have consultations, many parents will say, oh, I'm bringing my daughter or my son for your sex education program, but I don't think he or she's very interested in sexuality. And then we close the door, and then we have all these questions. They are super curious. Many say, I'm here, Isabelle, because you need to find me a boyfriend or a girlfriend. I said, we're not an agency, but let's try. So that's why we really enjoy having group sessions where we have always mixed groups where students can learn together, they become friends, and over years we also had some young adults who became partners. Why not? So lots of fun activities, and it's all based on the concept of well-being and mainly celebrating autism by being me. So we don't want to change their personality. We want to help them learn about healthy sexuality, because this is a huge, huge topic. And we need for eclectic approach, so there is not a magical recipe. I will show you material in various models, so we can always adapt to the autism profile. We will explore social skills, because we've learned from older students that, as you know, many of them have been teased or bullied in the past due to their social clumsiness. And when they arrive at the young adult age, many will start to develop performance anxiety because they've been criticized so much. We've pointed at them the mistakes for years and years, and many will say to me, I don't want to do anything now. I'm so afraid of making mistakes or putting myself into trouble. So we have this large group of young adults now who are not willing to participate to any type of activity due to difficult experience they had in the past and some traumatic experience. So that's why we encourage group sessions to enlarge their network and mainly to provide positive experience for them. We will work on communication abilities, verbal, nonverbal. Theory of mind is, for me, a key concept when it comes to healthy relationship and sexuality. Theory of mind is the ability to understand other ways of thinking. So if I have my thoughts, it doesn't mean that you share the same thoughts. Many of those with autism or even Asperger's syndrome, they have a delay in acquiring theory of mind. It means that they tend to project on others their way of thinking. So if they don't understand theory of mind, how can they understand notion of consent? It's impossible. So that's why they have huge difficulties giving their consent and checking other people's consent. So we have developed some activities, very practical one. You'll have access to a toolbox. Since it's a very short presentation, I managed with Thomas and the organization to have you have access to a toolbox with material. You'll have fact sheets on consent, pathways in relationship, lots of interesting programs you can use, both French and English, of course. We also explore emotion, because the moment you are interacting with someone, you will experience emotion remediation. We also work now with a new program called Energy Accounting to prevent autistic burnout. So there's lots of new interesting tools. We will explore routines and rituals in some of our students who may have developed some behaviors that may be inadequate, but due to repetition and routines that they may have. We take into account sensory profile, hypersensory reaction, hyposensory, and how it affects sexuality. And mainly we discovered, it's not a good news, but for still many of our students, there's lack of information and education about sexuality and lack of positive experience. So this is why we need to teach them. Very briefly, if you're interested in the female profile, with my colleague Tony Atwood and Annick Martin, who's a woman with Asperger's syndrome, we co-wrote a book called Le Profil Asperger au Féminin, and we published last year in English the female profile of autism. And inside the two books, you can find 65 questions that are very detailed about the female profile. And you can go online and download for free, French or English, the clinical guideline questionnaire. So we'll give you access to all that, of course. And I brought some copies if some of you are curious. So when we talk about sexuality, we know that students are very curious and they will explore sexuality. But this is why we need to give them guidance, because many of them will imitate behaviors. What they see, they reproduce. If they don't have access to proper information, they may reproduce behaviors in inappropriate context without notion of consent. Many of them are more at risk of being abused. They can be naive or even candid, and they trust people easily. But others may put themselves into big trouble by touching people or having inappropriate gestures, conversation. And mainly one of my preoccupation at the moment, no matter the age of our student, is how to navigate safely on internet and social media. Many are naive, will go, they are curious, they search information about sexuality, and trust me, it's very difficult to find programs online. When you type sex, what do you see? You don't do that? Do you do that? Our students are curious, so they may type sex or how to do it, whatever, or body parts, and they usually see a lot of pornography. So at the moment, many of our students are not so good at judging appropriate material, age group. They may share pictures that are intimate. They may answer intimate questions, and they may fall in the trap of internet. So we now have some practical activities to teach them what's appropriate, what's not, how to navigate, and we also have a lot of material that I'll share about this content. Very important to collaborate as much as possible with parents. This is, I call it the hot potato subject. Everyone is throwing the hot potato at each other. This is not my duty. Teachers should deal with that. Parents say, oh, I don't have the material, where to start. I really think that we should all collaborate together. So in my presentation, I've also added a lot of material for parents. So if you are professional and parents yourself, you can share the same material. It's very important. Try to avoid overprotection. Because as parents, I have a son too, now he's an adult, but we have this normal tendency to overprotect when it comes to sexuality. But if your child or your students have autism and you overprotect, you will probably take out the topic of sexuality and deal with lots of other material, and we usually leave out sexuality. But it makes them more vulnerable for abuse or being abused. So as prevention, it's going to bring them more security. We don't want them to have inappropriate behaviors. And we also want to prevent bullying, because bullying can be also sexual for many of our students. About 70% of our students will explore sexuality by touching themselves on their private parts, but usually in public places. If you work with a non-autistic student, very early on, they will kind of observe other students and figure out that they shouldn't touch their private parts in the classroom or in the bus. Our students, if we don't teach them, they may continue to have this behavior, not to shock people, not to get attention. It's just exploration. So we will provide with guidelines. 2 years ago, I worked for almost a full year at l'école L'Étincelle with very young students with severe autism. And we managed to teach all the students in the school private parts of the body using cardboards. It was just amazing. They were curious to learn. We taught them the rule, what's okay, what's not okay. And we saw after 1 year that the inappropriate behaviors of touching themselves or wanting to touch other students decreased because they learned the rule. This is not appropriate. So don't take for granted that they should know. And the problem is if we don't teach them earlier on, they will continue having the same behavior. And then eventually they become teenagers with all the bodily change that you can imagine. Everything starts to be even more complicated. I work with many adults and some adults with Asperger syndrome. The lack of information, lack of experience in relationship, and some of them had inappropriate behaviors in public places. And it turned out that they are the last one to understand that that was wrong. But then someone may call the police and they get into big trouble. So we want to avoid as much as possible. Some students, young teenagers, due to hormonal changes as well, will reach puberty and may have some frustrations because they want to have friends or boyfriend, girlfriend, and they have a very limited social network. And some of them, out of frustration, may have inappropriate behaviors of touching people or wanting to engage in a relationship, even if it's unhealthy. So that's why we will work on emotion regulation, enlarge the social network, and try to teach them steps in relationship and notion of consent. Another topic, I won't have time to go in detail today, but I'm very interested in gender identity and autism. We have a committee at our clinic where we work with some students and even adults who may be more flexible in their gender identity without a conflict. Some of them may integrate male, female characteristics in a more fluid way. And there was a term invented by a colleague of us called Autigen. So that would be the autism gender. So about 30% of our teenagers, adults coming to the clinic, well, they question their identity, are falling in the Autigen description, more fluid, non-binary. Out of these 30%, we have about 10% who may want to transition partially or totally. So this is another very important topic that we are working on at the clinic. So if we wish to teach them, we wish to think about sexuality in a positive way. You need to be patient when you teach about sexuality because it's not something easy for students. I usually recommend to use programs, material that I will all share with you, of course, in a very micro-graduated way. One thing at a time. Don't go too quick. Don't go too fast. Because if the topic is like a chain reaction, if it's not integrated by the student, you may go too quickly and eventually you put them at risk of having a gap of information. We want to integrate the student in the process, so it needs to be appealing. So that's why we use visuals, we use books, role-playing. Now we have access to a lot of websites that are very interesting, not porn, of course. I'll share the website with you. We use a lot of positive reinforcement, and everything needs to be visual. If you work in a school, and I think that's the case for most of you, and you may have to interact with a student who's having an inappropriate behavior, like touching their genitals, touching other people's private parts, or trying to grab you, the importance here is avoid having too much emotions when you interact with them. Because I know sexual behaviors gets attention. You can't, it's hard to stay calm, but try to stay calm as much as possible because otherwise it's almost like putting a fuel on the fire. So remain calm and neutral, try to redirect the behavior. You repeat alternative behaviors that are more adapted with reinforcement, and always remember that your reaction will amplify your student's behavior. This is a sensitive one. We had a long discussion at l'Étincelle about professionals, teachers, sometimes hugging students, right? Because you've known them for years, and when they were small, they were so cute, but now they're 12, 13, and you still hug them, and you start to feel uncomfortable. It's a sensitive topic. I'm just here to share with you some ideas, and we may discuss this at the end. We usually teach all our students the social circles, limits, distance, what's okay with myself, with my family, with my siblings, with other students in the classroom, and put yourself, you as a professional, in these circles, not too close to their intimacy circle. Teach them that you're there, but there is a distance. My opinion is you should not hug or kiss on the cheeks your students, because you are good people, but still they can be naive. And we know that most of the inappropriate behavior and abuse they are victims of are from people in their network, people they know, because they tend to trust people. So as a teacher or professional, if you train them to hug you and kiss you, they may start to want to hug and kiss any other professional. And they are at risk of going at other professionals and wanting to be hugged or to kiss. And eventually that may lead to a lot of problems. So I try to usually recommend find other ways to greet each other, to show affection, but not in a physical way. If you have to do some brushing, sensory activities, put it in a framework that it's with this professional on that day, in this context, in this room. There is a rule. So try to set up limits. If you don't teach them limits, they are at risk of not respecting limits. And eventually, since I work with many adults, they may be 18, 19. This is my experience. They arrive at the office when we used to have our office, and they wanted to hold me, grab me, sit on my lap, and this is not appropriate. So do it as soon as possible. I know it's sensitive, but that's going to be something very positive for them to learn limits. You know, the social circles is just as a reminder. So we put people in each circle, and we put behaviors, what's okay and what's not okay. And then we will play with the different circles. So we will teach that. When it comes to puberty, there is so many changes. Remember, you were teenagers, maybe not too long ago or many years ago. But do you remember being a teenager? Was it the best time of your life? No? No? My parents used to say, "Oh, Isabelle, this is wonderful. You're a teenager. Oh, enjoy." Like, what? It's tough to be a teenager because everything's changed. Your body changed, your way of thinking. You're trying to find yourself through other people's model, trying to fit in. In other words, you lose control of your body, and sometimes your emotions may be cyclic. So it's a tough period. So for our students, it is also a very tough period. So what we want to do is reassure them, or what I call normalize puberty. With information, they will feel less anxious. The more they're anxious with this big life transition, the more they're at risk of feeling awkward. So as a way to normalize, we will teach them gender, male, female. We wish for them to sink in. Many of the students at l'Étincelle, they didn't know if they were a boy or a girl. We wanted to teach them private parts of the body, but they didn't even know if they were a boy or a girl. So backtrack with these students. Start from the beginning. We teach them body parts. I'll give you examples. General body parts that are different. and intimate parts. You can use books. You have the same in French, the same collection, What's Happening to Eli and What's Happening to Tom. These books were designed by Sandra Hendricks, and she's an expert in autism. So there's limited words, mainly images, and it teaches all the transitions from being a baby to a young teenager. We will teach about privacy, context, safety. Many students going to school, they want to go to the toilet and they start to undress while they're walking to the toilet. They may leave the door open. Why? Because this is what they do at home. I teach parents to teach their son and daughter to close the door. Don't undress before you get in the toilet bathroom. And sometimes they are very good at that, but they're finished, they open the door, and then they start to dress in the corridor. Not appropriate. So we will teach them a sequence. This is also important when they go to the gym, to the pool. One of my female students, she never thought about the risk. She was walking naked at the pool, and she entered the pool section, and people say, oh, she's okay, she's with us. This is not safe. This is not good. Teach them security. So you have the book, Ellie needs to go to the toilet. So these are safety rules on how to use the toilet, and you'd have the same for Tom needs to go. And if some students are exploring self-touch, you have the same collection about masturbation. How to masturbate properly. I'm not here to encourage masturbation. I'm here to give guidelines. If they want to touch their private parts, we will teach them the sequence. It has to be in their bedroom, alone, because they may share bedroom with siblings. Door closed, we teach them how to use a sign. And for those who don't know how to touch themselves properly, due to all sorts of factors, medical, medication, sensory, it can be also in terms of the gesture in itself, we may give instruction to masturbation for some students. Some of them have intellectual disability and they never learn the natural gesture. And they may hurt themselves by trusting their sensitive parts on people, on furniture, or using objects that may damage their genital. So I won't talk about this today too much, but this is something we do as professionals, as psychologists and sexologists at the clinic, if needed, to teach and help our students. If this is something you wish to explore further, there are advanced books, Masturbation, Autism and Learning Disability, and Sexuality and Severe Autism. Going back on books for families and professionals, we will start to talk about special boys business, special girls business, relationship, love, and sex. So these are cartoons, very easy to use, and we will always combine with information. That was a l'étincelle, and the cartoons we had, they were the same size as the students, like real size. It was so fun. It was magnet, and we had to put a swimsuit on private parts of the body, and it was red. Red means stop. Don't touch. So we were playing at putting swimsuit, and the students, they love it. It took us 6 months. After 6 months, they got it. And they stopped touching themselves or touching other students. I would also recommend, if you're curious and you need another type of toolbox material, this is a large toolbox designed by Stephanie Mittelman. You probably know her. She's a sexologist here in Montreal. She works in special needs. And in this toolbox, you will have all the material. It's all cards like this, where you have steps on hygiene, masturbation, going to the toilet, anything. Everything you wish to teach is in this toolbox. So you can have a look on our website. If you don't want to buy the entire toolbox, you can choose some sections. And I'll show you more in a few minutes. If ever you work with older students who may question their identity. We usually use more precautions in autism. At our clinic, I'm more than happy to share a document. We have a protocol when there is a questioning, how to address it, the steps, the framework. We integrate family member, friends. Sometimes they also have a partner. We have specific material, and our assessment takes longer than most other clinics because we think with autism, it takes more time to make sure about a decision. We never precipitate any decision. So we usually work for months or years with students if they want to transition. We have a multi-model service, and we collaborate with also, you probably know McGill Music Clinic. They specialize in gender identity, and we share the protocol with them. And we have designed a gender identity profile questionnaire for autism, because most of the assessments are done with material that are designed for non-autistic individuals. So we use a protocol that is more in tune with characteristics of autism. And if ever you want to learn a bit more, there was a book published by Marianne Courti. She's the one who invented the term Autigen. Marianne is a researcher in Birmingham, UK. She is psychologist, Ph.D, Asperger syndrome herself, and her special interest in life is transgender and non-binary people. So she is the expert, as you can imagine. And I was invited to collaborate to this book, and I have a chapter on the clinical guidelines and follow-up that we recommend for students and adults with autism, if ever you're interested. So going back on growing up after puberty, we wish to develop friendship skills, relationship skills. We want to make sure that if one of our students finds a new friend, the new friend may become their special interest. Make sense? So we want to regulate the intensity of relationship, because if your friend becomes your special interest, there is a risk of losing your friend over time. It's going to be too much. So we'll talk about the intensity. We talk about healthy relationship. What's okay? What's healthy? Are there some dangers? Do you sometimes feel uncomfortable in your relationship? So we will give them kind of a menu of I feel good, I'll show you in a few minutes, and I don't feel good in the relationship anymore. We wish for them to start to learn about their own feeling and being able to recognize if it's healthy or unhealthy. So I'm going to share with you a free program. You have it in French as well. In French, it's called Vague par Vague. In English, it's called Making Waves. There is a free PDF program where you can use it as a professional with tons of role-playing, questions, mise en scène, where you develop with your students, is this healthy or not healthy? And I teach all our students age difference, because this may be an issue for some students who may eventually develop friendship with older students. What are the rules? We can play together, we can do activities, but when it comes to sexuality, this is very important to understand that there is an age difference. Because we sometimes have older students, 18, 19, who may find themselves more comfortable with younger people. They are not pedophile, but they are more comfortable with younger people because younger people won't bully them, they won't tease them, and they may share interests that are common due to the delay in maturity. So my older students, they need to learn the limits that if you are 18 or over, you don't have any sexual behaviors with your younger friends. That's very important. If we want to teach communication games, you can use the story cubes. You can buy story cubes like real cubes, a box, or you can go and see the apps. On the apps, you roll the dice on your tablet, and then you'll find an image, and you start a conversation. For those students who are verbal, they tend to have monologue. So my friend Jean-François, absolute wonderful man, but the moment he talks about any topic in any meeting, he talks about Toyota Corolla Bleu 1985. He's so happy when he talks about it. I say, okay, we did it 20 times. He said, Isabelle, please tell me, what car do you drive? Tell me it's a Toyota. I said, unfortunately, it's a white Subaru. He said, oh, this is disappointing. I'm sorry. He said, okay. He started to join a group where they draw mandala drawing. He loves it. He's very particular with attention into detail. After a few sessions, he come back to the clinic and he said, Isabelle, I saw a nice looking young woman. Can I ask her what car she drives? I said, you can, but maybe she won't be as interested in Toyota, especially blue. He said, are you sure? I said, trust me. On this one, trust me. Maybe you can ask her, but maybe you can also discuss other things. He said, like what? So we started to play with the dice. So I use the dice. I fell on a plane. I said, let's use a plane. Let's start a discussion. There's 2 rules. First one, we play ping pong. The ball needs to go on both sides. So I talk, you talk. I talk, you talk. And the other rule is you may reflect. So just give me a comment about what I'll say. He said, okay, let's try. So I say, I have a plane. So, oh, Jean-François, by the way, I'm going to Switzerland next month. He said, I don't care. Okay, what else? I said, let's try. If you want to talk with this young woman, let's practice together. He said, okay, are you happy about your trip? I said, oh, I'm quite looking forward. What about you, Jean-François? Have you took the plane lately? He looked at me and said, this is so boring. I said, okay, let's find another. So we played the dice, and eventually we started to do ping pong. Ping pong, ping pong. And after, honestly, few weeks, we were doing it in a very serious way. He said, I think I'm ready to talk to Nathalie. I said, remember, the car is not your priority in conversation. He said, I'll try. He started to talk with her. He went to her. She was super nice because I met her afterwards. He said, hi, Nathalie. I saw you in the drawing class. So do you like to take the plane? She looked at him. Why are you asking? He said, planes are great. Do you like to travel? And eventually she was a bit surprised and she said, yes, I've traveled a few times in my life. What about you? And they started to talk. He said, Isabelle, thank you so much. After 20 minutes, he said, what car do you drive? She said, I don't drive. He said, you should drive a blue Toyota. And he has pictures in his tablet. It's 200 pictures of blue Toyota that he found online. He said, can I share with you? But I told him 5 pictures max, okay? Not 250. He said, can I share? And she said, yes. And she looked at it. He said, okay, thank you for your attention. And then he said, let's move on. So he came back to the clinic. So we worked on other steps. And eventually, they became a couple. Oh, yes, I'm not a matching club, but I'm always happy. So we use the program. George had to leave because tonight he's attending a very special occasion. You'll know soon. It's very special. He had to leave, but this is the idea that came from George when he said, do it. So together with George, we went in the community. This is years ago, French, English. I met all the teenagers and adults with what we used to call Asperger syndrome. I went in schools. We discussed with professionals, with parents, and we asked them, what do you want to learn? They said everything. So we said, okay. So we've decided to do a curriculum, sex education curriculum. It's based on 15 weeks of activities that you can enlarge over months if you want. You have 90 minutes for each topic. We have 12 topics. You can work in groups. We have questionnaires, games, role-playing, software, videos, discussions, social stories, group project. And we cover most topics that are important for our students. We assess their knowledge about sexuality. We talk about communication, the difference between love and friendship, physiological aspect, relationships, behaviors, emotions, STIs and prevention, and how to use a condom. All our students now, they know how to use a condom. They're very good. Sexual orientation, alcohol, drugs, and sexuality, abuse, violence, how to manage emotions, theory of mind, and how to safely navigate on internet and social media. So I have some samples if you're interested. So you have all the activities. It's a chain reaction. You start with one topic and then you move on to another. We've been using it for many years now. The program has been validated in different universities throughout the world, and we have now 19 versions of the book: Italian, Greek, Chinese, Japanese. Everyone's interested about sexuality, right? That's good. Stephanie Mittelman, I told you her toolbox. This is a section that I really enjoy for teenagers. It's flirting cards. So you have a set of cards, you look at the image, and you start to use theory of mind. You draw a thought bubble. What is she thinking? What is he thinking? What can they say to each other? And if they have an emotion, what kind of emotion they can experience. And this is very interesting because we need to teach them. We talked about consent, but also healthy steps in relationship. If you wish to progress from friends to eventually a relationship, you need to learn all these steps. I will share with you in your toolbox. This is something you'll have access. It's called the Body Book from Denmark. Because if students are curious to learn about the body, they may go online. And when you go online, you have a high risk of falling on porn website. And if you've been there and you've seen porn, the body don't look as natural as it is in real life. Some clients said, Isabelle, you just say that because you're jealous. I said, what do you mean? He was very serious. He said, this is just amazing. He said, did you know that each young woman, the moment they start to undress and they take off their bra, their breast will be very, very big, but they camouflage it under their clothes. I said, what do you mean? He said, you haven't seen it online? I said, what do you mean online? He said, it's all big. I said, oh, it's called implants. He said, you're so jealous. I said, no, this is not what I'm saying. But this is not real body. And then all the group looked at me and I said, guys, come on, are you thinking that this is natural? They say, oh, yes, it's because you're old, Isabelle. Okay, so I've decided to use educational material, but real pictures. This is not erotic, this is not pornographic, it's educational. I've never found anything until I went to Denmark. They are very advanced in terms of sex education and counseling for students on the spectrum. So in the body book, you'll have, and I'm very serious saying that, you'll have menus. Menus of breast, menus of penises, menus of bump. And then students are curious. They look at it, but I prefer for them to have access to real pictures, real body, and then we can talk about it together and educate them. Otherwise, the risk, out of curiosity, they may go online. And online, it's a huge, huge trap for them. I'll just skip a bit. I see time passing. We wish to teach them also appropriate ways to have intercourse if they are adults, because the students eventually will become adults. And when they go online, and if they are curious on how to make love, whatever they ask as a question, they will fall on porn. So I found a website. You have to be 16 and over. That's okay. It's called educationsensuelle.com. It has little videos on kissing, on hugging, on caresses, and it's not pornographic. All my students, I tell them, we watch it together and then we comment and we go for another step, and they say, you know, Isabelle, I watched it, I was not excited. I say, good, it's educational material, really. But they never seen anything like this. They see porn or they see black and white drawing in a program that is, there's no middle part, so this could be the middle part. Just a quick story. A couple I was working with, they were together for about 6 months. They met at a dance, have mild intellectual disability and autism, and they became partners. And one of their educators said, you should see them as a couple to make sure that they respect consent and they want to develop a romantic relationship. I said, good. After a few sessions, I say, so what kind of intimate behavior do you have? And they say, oh, we hold each other, we care a lot, we love touching each other. And I say, what about kissing? And they say, kissing, we've never kissed on the lips, on the mouth. None of us. And they were in their mid-20s. I say, okay. And they say, can you teach us? I say, I've never had this question before. How can you teach people to kiss? Do you know? I don't know. So I said, okay. So I searched, and I found Éducation Sensuelle, the first clip. So I said, we'll watch it together. You go back home, you watch it together, and come back next week, we'll discuss. The week after, I arrive in my waiting room, they are French kissing. Full French kissing, really. And I was like, oh, I forgot to tell them, not in my waiting room. So I went like, and all the other clients were looking at them like, so I said, I'm sorry, guys, you have to come. They said, we're not finished. And they were kissing. I said, no, come to my office. And they say, you should have told us. This is so good. Oh, I say, imagine the rest. No, I'm joking. I didn't say that. So I said, good, but you know, there's a context. Are you in a public place? They say, yes. So, but I forgot to tell you, you need to kiss in a private place, like at home or in your living room if there's not people around. So anyway, this website was very helpful for many, many young adults where they learn in a respectful way. It's very smooth and very good. And if you want to teach them on how to navigate safely online, we have, I know time is almost done, I'll just tell you a story about this. We wrote a book in French and English on autism, spectrum, sexuality, and the law, and we have it in French as well. In the book, you download fact sheets on consent, on what's legal, what's illegal. I'll show you briefly in a few minutes. It came from a story, maybe you know Nick Dobbin. Nick Dobbin is an Asperger's adult. He was arrested a few years ago in the United States because he downloaded inappropriate material, juvenile porn, without knowing it, in fact, because he was searching online. He wanted to have a partner and he wanted to check, do I prefer male or female? He was curious in a very naive way. He went online and he started to click on different pages. And you know, when you go online and you watch porn, there are bubbles or sidebars on the side or on the top. And if you click on it, after 2 clicks, you'll fall on inappropriate material, the gray zone. It's called teen porns. 80% of porn at the moment is teen porn. Some are real teens, others are false teens because people find it exciting. But if you are autistic and you go online, none of these websites will say, watch out, what you're about to see is illegal. So Nick click. He double-click because it says click here for more. And it doesn't say be careful. It says come here and visit us. So he double-clicked and he saw juvenile porn. He thought, ooh, this is not what I want to look at. He closed his computer. But the problem is that his IP address was captured by Trojan. Trojan is the main system, internet system. It's the same system that FBI police use when they want to capture pedophile. So they broke into his apartment. He was arrested. He was in jail for months. And Nick was traumatized by this because he's not a pedophile. He made a mistake, and this is not what he wanted. But since they found images on his computer, and when they arrived, they say, "So, you've looked at juvenile porn." What do you think he said? As a perfect Aspie, he said, "Yes." "So which computer?" He said, "This one." But see, that was it. It was gone. So he lost his apartment. He was working in a special school for children with special needs. So they said, "See, that's why he's working here." So he lost everything. While he was in prison, he didn't have access to internet. He called his dad because he was able to talk to his dad. His dad is a lawyer in the United States. And his dad contacted me. It's Larry, that's his father. And he said, "Isabelle, do you work with adults who may fall in the trap of internet?" I said, "Every day." And with some of our colleagues, we're a court expert. We explain to the court the profile of our clients, that their behavior is not appropriate, but there is a lot of reasons why they fell in the trap. So we wanted to change the way the justice system sees and perceives our clients. So he said, "Would you accept to write a book with Nick and Tony Atwood to explain to other adult fellows and teenagers how to be careful?" So we decided to say yes. And we translated the book in French a few years ago. The French version, you open up a little sticker, you have a QR code, and then you can download here a questionnaire on consent, how to teach consent, how to verify consent. You have fact sheets. Can I change my mind? What are the signs that I feel good in a relationship when I'm not feeling good? What are the warning words? We have lists of websites that are appropriate. So if you are searching, curious about a specific topic, let's use our, and I will share this with you, of course, let's use our list, and then you know you have safe websites there. So you have all the material, and this is something we found very important for our students. And I'm sorry to insist on pornography, but since most of you are professional adults, I assume that you don't know what's happening on the porn website, because this is not something that you look at. At the moment, most of our clients, they love, going and seeing cartoons online. This is very popular, anime. On the anime websites, there are sidebars. And if you click on the sidebars, that you should never do, you will fall on hentai. A large part of hentai are illegal in Canada because they represent child pornography in drawing. So many of my clients say, "But that doesn't count." I say, even drawings count. You can be arrested if you look at sexual hentai. That's not appropriate. On Le Roi Lion, Disney, comment on dit en anglais Le Roi Lion? Lion King. Okay. On Lion King, you have sidebars, and if you click, you'll find hentai, Roi Lion, inappropriate, etc. So all the websites, most of them, they contain illegal porn. So teach your students, never click on websites, sidebars, pop-ups. It's very, very dangerous. So this is more or less what I wanted to present in only an hour. When I do the sex education training, some of you know me, it's usually 2 full days. So I hope I've covered at least some of your questions. After the conference, I will share with the team a toolbox with videos. You'll have access to Making Waves program. I'll give you some samples of the navigation, healthy navigation on internet. You'll have lots of extra materials, so you can start from that and hopefully start to engage in teaching healthy sexuality. So, are there questions or comments? Yes, we'll give you a microphone. Okay, if you want.
Hello. So we've started this social circles program a bit here at Giant Steps. We're always wondering about, is it echoing or? No, it's good. Okay. About when they get a boyfriend or a girlfriend and which circle that goes into. As well, they don't have a boyfriend or girlfriend now, but they eventually will. Do we still tell them that if you have a boyfriend or girlfriend, they will go in this circle?
Very good. What we do is we have the same circle, and I put a little heart. This is my future boyfriend, girlfriend. And eventually we move the heart in each section. I'll get to know this person. We may be acquaintance at the beginning, or it can be a student in the school. We'll get to know each other. There's conversation abilities, for example, topics that are okay or not okay. So we move the person eventually closer to the personal circle.
So it eventually goes into the purple circle?
It goes in, yes, exactly. Eventually it's in my circle because we can then share kisses, hugging, etc. So we move the heart eventually.
So when the students are young, it's important to have that heart so that they know eventually
it's a possibility.
It's a possibility.
Yes. And usually they love it to just, think that there could be someone interesting. Yeah. Why not?
And if we don't give them that information, like you're saying, that they eventually will get one, then they may not know that they could have one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We open possibilities without pressure. But I always talk about this is a possibility. Otherwise, it's true, by overprotection, we won't tell them. And then they don't even think that it could happen eventually. And imagine when they'll kiss. No, I'm joking. It's Friday.
Oh, sorry, another question about kissing in schools. Because we're a special needs school.
Yes.
What is your opinion about, like, we're teaching that kissing they can do, but it's not in school necessarily?
Yes. I'll share with you a program from the government of Quebec, okay? Very straightforward. And we have context. We teach, for example, we can shake hands because it's a more general part of our body, but the lips, it's a private part. So if we touch each other's lips by kissing, it has to be in a private place, not the school. If they kiss in the bus, technically it's not that appropriate. We want to teach them that it's out of the school. If they go, for example, visit one and another at their house, but not in the classroom or in the hallway.
So, sorry guys, but so you're saying lips are private parts?
Yeah. Yes, because otherwise they may want to kiss you. The students know me, they want to kiss me sometimes just because we care about each other. And I said, or they want to touch. No, this is private. I taught you something today. Your lips are private. Une autre question. Oui.
Bonjour, Madame Henault.
Bonjour.
Ouais, moi, je parle fort.
C'est correct.
Parfait. Sophie Mongrain, conseillère pédagogique au Centre de services scolaires de Montréal. Et là, je veux rebondir sur la dame, ce qu'elle vient de dire à propos des bisous.
Oui.
Souvent, ce qui arrive, c'est que les élèves ne se voient qu'à l'école. Ils ne se voient pas à l'extérieur. Fait que c'est pour ça que moi aussi, tu sais, les lips,
notre préoccupation.
private.
Oui, mais éventuellement, ce qui serait intéressant quand ils vieillissent un peu, do I switch in French or English?
Doesn't matter.
Okay. In English. I was supposed to talk English. I'm practicing. We want to encourage them gathering other activities outside of school. That's why we do art show. We used to work with Autistes Sans Limites. They are here today. This is where we teach sex education. They see each other at activities, enlarge their network, enlarge the context. And you're right, they see each other at school, but it's very restrictive. But the problem, some of my students said, yes, but let's say they are integrated in a normal classroom. They say, but other students are kissing all the time. I say, yes. The thing is, since they don't have autism, if they see a teacher arriving or a professional, they'll know how to stop. Our students, they continue. And they are the one falling in
Trouble.
all the time.
Thank you.
I'd love to speak more with you. We should meet again because this was super brief, but there are so many subtleties and layers to what I explained, but definitely this is very interesting.
I think we're going to take one last question.
Bonjour.
Ma question est, on est souvent avec des élèves où les comportements sont dans... D'accord. Les élèves ont souvent des comportements dans les toilettes,
Oui.
qui fait qu'à ce moment-là, on doit laisser la porte ouverte. Comment leur apprendre, vu que c'est des personnes en plus qui peuvent être très vulnérables,
Oui.
comment leur apprendre que c'est
Oui.
privé, c'est leur corps,
Oui.
c'est...
Mais ça dure à peu près, en général, peut-être 1h30, ce que j'aimerais vous expliquer.
D'accord.
Donc, idéalement, c'est qu'on va leur enseigner que s'ils veulent toucher leur partie intime, là, je ne parle pas d'aller aux toilettes pour des besoins, là, mais s'ils veulent se toucher, il faut que ça soit à la maison, à la toilette de la maison, pas dans une toilette publique, parce qu'après, il y en a qui vont généraliser à toutes sortes de toilettes, au cinéma, au restaurant, etc. Et donc, on va vraiment faire des associations avec des lieux et avec les parties du corps. Donc, c'est ce qu'on a fait à l'étincelle. Je vais vous fournir tous les pictos dans la toolbox. Il va y avoir de tout, pour les plus jeunes jusqu'aux adultes, mais on va faire ça en sections. Puis, je recule super rapidement parce qu'il faut que je m'arrête, mais ici, vous allez trouver beaucoup de choses. Sexuality and Severe Autism, il y a toute la philosophie de ça. Et aussi, dans ces livres, on explique la séquence. En fait, on travaille en séquence éducative. Puis dans le gros toolbox de Stephanie Mittelman, il y a tout le matériel. Puis dans mon livre, j'ai toutes les explications sur les comportements exploratoires, mais de façon sécuritaire. Je m'excuse, comme j'ai 1 minute, je ne veux pas trop m'embarquer. Merci.
Thank you, Isabelle. It's
Thank
really,
you very
yeah,
much.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.